This was after Donald Trump held his, or let the press into his so-called meeting where he's meeting with leadership of the Republican Party and leadership of the Democratic Party. Just before the meeting that Pelosi and Schumer were supposed to attend, Trump tweeted, you know, the Democrats are coming to my meeting, but all they want to do is raise taxes and let millions of immigrants come into the country. By the way, none of which is true. Particularly, you know, Democrats are not about raising taxes on average working people. They're about lowering those taxes. President Obama oversaw the largest middle-class tax cut in the history of the United States. Trump's would be the largest tax cut for billionaires in the history of the United States. But in any case, Trump tweeted out, you know, some nasty stuff about Pelosi and Schumer, and so they figured, hey, you know, he's got no interest in actually talking to us, and so they didn't bother to come. And then he sits these giant empty chairs there and tries to make it like, oh, the Democrats are... This is evil political theater. And Nancy Pelosi is not taking it. She tweeted out, Donald Trump now knows that his verbal abuse will no longer be tolerated. And what she's talking about, of course, is his trash-talking her and Schumer in the tweet an hour before they were supposed to meet, or a few hours before they meet. She goes on to say, his empty chair photo op shows he's more interested in stunts than in addressing the needs of the American people. Poor Ryan and McConnell were relegated to being props. Sad. Amen. And good on you, Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker Pelosi, Leader Pelosi, I guess is the title. Thank you for taking on Donald Trump. Meanwhile, British lawmaker, this is from The Hill by Rebecca Savrunsky, British lawmaker Chuka Umunna called for President Trump's invite to visit the United Kingdom in 2018 to be withdrawn. She says, I don't think the President of the United States, this is in the wake of his having retweeted 3 tweets from basically a British neo-Nazi group. I mean, they don't use neo-Nazi as part of their name, but they're all about hating Semites, hating Semitic people, in this case Muslims, from the Middle East. You know, the Semitic people are Jews from the Middle East, Sephardic Jews, arguably, and Arabs from the Middle East. They're brothers, right? I mean, you know, go back to Abraham and all that kind of stuff. And this group has been just like mercilessly trashing Muslims for quite some time, to the point that they're just like, you know, people in the UK look at them with horror. And they posted yesterday 3 pictures, 3 videos, and one was characterized as a Muslim beating up a good Dutch citizen. And it turns out the Muslim was actually a 16-year-old Christian Dutch young man who was beating up another Dutchman. Nothing to do with Islam, nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with any of that stuff. And yet this British neo-Nazi group tweeted it, and Donald Trump retweeted it. So this member of Parliament, British lawmaker, Chuka Umunna, says, I don't think the President of the United States, a president that has not only promoted bigotry, misogyny, and racism in his own country, I don't think he's welcome here. This was on Sky News. She says, I think the invite that has been made to him to come to our country in early 2018 should be withdrawn. Someone in his position doing what he has done and said, not only in his own country, but now getting involved in the debate here in the UK, he is normalizing hatred. I think it takes us down a very, very dangerous road indeed, and you've got to call it out. The video, the tweet, said, Muslim immigrant beats up Dutch boy on crutches. And it turns out it wasn't a Muslim immigrant. It was a 16-year-old Dutch boy. We don't know about the other 2 videos, but I'm sure that it'll come out. Meanwhile, Joan McCarter, who does just some of the best writing on the internet over at dailycoast.com. Joan McCarter writing, take it from a Republican, but not just any Republican, but a domestic policy advisor to President Ronald Reagan and Deputy Assistant Secretary for Economic Policy at the Treasury Department in the Bush 41 White House. That would be Bruce Bartlett. I mentioned this during the last hour, but it's worth revisiting briefly here, particularly if you weren't listening during the last hour. Literally, this is Bruce Bartlett. Bruce Bartlett was the senior economic advisor to Ronald Reagan. He was the domestic policy advisor, and he was the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Economic Policy at the Treasury Department during George Herbert Walker Bush's presidency. This guy has impeccable Republican credentials. He helped shape the Reagan and post-Reagan era, and he woke up. Bruce Bartlett figured out the scam that the Republicans are running, and he says literally the second, this is his tweet from yesterday, day before yesterday, excuse me. He says, literally the second the ink is dry on the tax cut. This is a prediction, right? And I absolutely agree with Bruce Bartlett. That I believe that this prediction is 100% true, because every single time in the past that this kind of a scenario has happened, this is what's happened. So back to what Bruce Bartlett said. Literally the second the ink is dry on the tax cut, deficit hawks will emerge from their hibernation, where they have had nary a word of criticism about increasing the deficit by $1.5 trillion, to demand that Social Security and Medicare be slashed because the deficit has mysteriously increased. He goes on to say they have played this game before. This from a piece he wrote for the Washington Post. He said, for decades, conservative intellectuals have pushed for big tax cuts, not to grow the economy, but to starve the beast. They want to force a major overall spending cut that would be a political non-starter without first passing a tax cut that creates a deficit so large something must be done about it. And this is nakedly an attempt to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. That's what's going on. Meanwhile, Common Dreams' Jake Johnson reporting, study shows corporate cable networks largely ignoring FCC plan to kill net neutrality. ABC, you might want to ask ABC if you can figure out a way to get through them. This is one of the problems with having corporations rather than elected officials. They don't have to take your call. In fact, if you show up with a sign in front of their building, they can have you arrested if it's their property. ABC spent 25 seconds in the last week talking about net neutrality. CBS 2 minutes, NBC 0. NBC, of course, owned by Comcast. Comcast, of course, the company that has been suing the FCC to end net neutrality. These guys, hey, they want their money, right? They want to be able to jack up your internet service prices. They want to be able to sell your information. In order to get your information, they want to be able to listen in on, read, watch everything you do on the internet, so they know what you buy at the stores. They know what you're talking to your friends about that you want for Christmas in your emails. They know what websites you're browsing, so they can take that information and they can sell it to companies that want to market to you, that want to influence you, that want to get your money. You are the product, right? When you get a service that's free, you are the product. Well, it goes even worse than that. You're going to pay these internet service providers for access to the internet, and you're going to pay them about 3 times what average people in the rest of the developed world pay for internet services. And you're going to get crappier internet service than you get in most of the developed world. It's good, slower, it's clunkier, the interface is clunkier, and on top of that, they want to be able to say, oh, you want to visit VerizonSucks.com? I don't know if that's a real site or not, but just for example, you want to visit Verizon Sucks or ComcastSucks.com? Can't do it. Sorry, that website is not available. Looks like it doesn't exist on the internet. Why would that be? Well, it would be because the big internet service providers are doing exactly what China is doing, only China's not doing it to make money. China's doing it to maintain political power. Well, there's a certain point in the United States where making money and wielding political power become the same thing. And that's what these corporations are all about. This is an existential threat to democracy.